Hello there, my friend, and welcome to the Disney Travel Secrets Podcast. We are your hosts, authors and travel agents, Rob Kerri Stuart, coming to you from the Creating Magic Vacation studio right here in Disney's backyard, beautiful Windermere, Florida. You're listening to episode number 416, original air date, February 3rd, 2025.
This week, we're talking about how storytelling built the Disney empire from animation to theme parks to cruise lines.
And some of the books that we recommend from authors to really get to know the backstories behind the brand that we all love.
Welcome to Disney Travel Secrets with your host, Rob and Kerri Stuart, the founders of Creating Magic Vacations and authorized Disney Vacation Planner. They are still a very popular Disney podcast, and not just with their friends and family. Every Monday for over 5 years, they've been bringing you the best and most up-to-date information about all things Disney, the parks, the cruises, and also the luxury of Adventures by Disney. Make sure to follow them on Instagram, where they share content that's mentioned on this very show. Now, here comes the rope drop.
I cannot believe it's February already, although we are technically recording this in January, right before Agent Palooza.
I know, that snuck up on us.
Yes, it did.
And really, because of our event, January always flies by. Anyway, we all know that Walt Disney was the best storyteller of the 20th century.
And even some of us were born while he was still with us.
Okay, yeah, but you were only one when he passed away.
I was not aware of who he was at that point. Also, growing up in St. Louis, Disney was never really a theme park to me. It was just a Sunday night TV show.
Yeah, and I grew up in Colorado, so it's not like the Disney parks were in my backyard. Now, one thing before we get to the main show, some of you have requested Disney trips for 2026. Quick update. We don't know when they're going to come out. It's probably going to be May or June. And that's just typical Disney. And really, hotels are kind of like that, too.
Well, you're right, because last year was very different because Disney was trying to get ahead of Universal's opening of Epic Universe as far as the announcements, which they did.
Yeah. So in 2025, those dates for this year's packages, they actually opened up in February. But we're not there yet for 2026.
And that was really the first time since we started selling Disney, probably back in, I guess, 2008, that they did this, which made February our biggest month ever last year until January of this year.
And just a little PSA here. If you did fill out the form on our website for 2026, don't worry. We have put you on a VIP list. And as soon as those dates are open, we will reach out to you.
So as part of the CMV Heroes project benefiting Folds of Honor, we're proud to announce that our new 2025 goal, and that is called Mission 100.
And what that means is it is our goal to help 100 military families with a spouse that may want to become a travel agent with Creating Magic Vacations.
And because of the frequency of how often these families move, the unemployment rate among military spouses is 5 times the national average.
Which I find absolutely crazy. And so we're hoping to put a little dent in that. And if that fits you, then head on over to our Creating Magic Vacations website and click on the Join Our Team.
Because we are in just a tiny little bit of a time crunch, we do have to, we're going to head over after this recording and go get set up over at Contemporary Resort. So we're going to dive right into today's topic.
So it is no secret that from the beginning, as far back as Marceline, Missouri, in the early 1900s, that Walt Disney was always about telling a story, whether they were his own stories or others that he brought to life.
So even the windows on Main Street at both Disneyland and Magic Kingdom, they're all about stories, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah, but first, our Disney story. We had been going to the Disney World parks for about 6 or 7 years without really any knowledge of the history behind it. Just we were going for the attractions and just a place to hang out.
So we really came to be huge fans of Disney, I would say a lot later than most people, because I didn't go to Disney until I was like early 30s. And that was just Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, and I had only gone twice to Disneyland as a kid. So when I was out at Walt Disney World, it was for work trips. But looking back, though, there was one thing that really kind of stood out on how our passion for Disney started.
And that's one thing I really love, is that we grew to appreciate all of what Walt Disney has done together as a couple.
Yeah, which has been kind of fun, and I do love that. So here is a little story about our Disney story.
So back in 2012, we were, and some of you already know this, we were at Walt Disney World on October 1st. It was Magic Kingdom's 41st anniversary and Epcot's 30th.
And it was also our third anniversary, which is a total coincidence.
Yes, it was.
And I remember it was a very, very hot day. So we're in Epcot. We grabbed a drink and we were like, whoa, giant air-conditioned event in the pavilion at Epcot?
Yeah.
We're in, and that's the one that's between Canada and the UK. It's a place that we have since visited many, many times for some special events.
And that's when we heard Marty Sklar for the first time. Some of you know that story. And he talked about his history with Disney and how he personally worked with Walt Disney.
It was an amazing story. So if you don't know who Marty is, he started his career at Disney as the editor of the Disneyland News in the theme park.
And throughout his very long tenure, Marty Sklar had various, I'd say, pretty significant positions within the Walt Disney companies, including Vice President of Creative Development, Executive Vice President, and then finally, President of Walt Disney Imagineering. So his career with Disney, it officially ended July 17th of 2009. And that's when he retired after 53 years of service. So that really, I think, it marked the end of an era that began with the park's opening and spanned over 5 decades of Disney's growth and innovation.
So you can imagine he has a lot of stories.
Just a few.
But after he retired, he continued to be a very popular ambassador and was a huge draw at Disney events like D23. And in fact, he was the only Disney cast member to attend the opening of every single Disney park worldwide.
That day in 2012 really turned out to be a life-changing event for us, even though we didn't realize it at the time, but also the start of us really wanting to learn more about the background of Walt Disney himself, going back to his very early years in Marceline, Missouri.
And whenever we walk down Main Street now at Magic Kingdom, before, we never even would give a thought to the names and all that info that's on the windows of the buildings and why they were there. Never did we look at that before.
I know. And are they real people or just made up Disney names? Some of you may have thought the same thing, or maybe you didn't even think of it at all.
Yeah. So here is a great story from Marty himself about how those people are chosen to be on a window on Main Street at either of the parks. And we were really fortunate to talk with Marty not just once, not twice, but 3 times in 2017 before he passed away.
This is a bonus for those of you watching on the Disney Travel Secrets YouTube channel, because this is Marty Sklar in his own words.
Orange County Registered Digital.
This whole program started with Walt at the beginning of Disneyland. He wanted to thank many people for helping him create the park, and so it became a tradition. The original windows are done by the people who created and opened the park. It's all about what they may have done in their responsibilities and achievements in the parks, and of course most of them are Disney legends. Every one of them is designed to say something to cast members about that individual and what they accomplished while they were in the company. There's a lot of jokes in them that are the people who work with those people understand, but the guests really don't. Ken Anderson isn't considered one of the 9 old men, but he worked on a lot of Fantasyland, and there's Ken Anderson Bait Company because he was a fisherman. Big and tall, well, that was Claude. Before I retired, I used to write all the windows. The Sherman Brothers window, Bob Gurr, Rolly Crumb. Harper Goff was the designer of the Jungle Cruise originally and the Adventureland Bazaar. One is for Fess Parker, Davy Crockett, Buzz Price, all kinds of windows. My good friend Eddie Meck, who was my first boss when I did this newspaper originally at Disneyland. He actually is called editor of the Disneyland News. So when they got to me, they couldn't do that. From a personal standpoint, I'm really proud to have my name on a window on City Hall with Jack Lindquist on the other window, just the 2 of us. And the beautiful thing about mine is that I actually had that office way back in 1955. You can't possibly put everybody who retires on the window, so there's a selection process. The rules are only on retirement, only when a vote between Imagineering and the parks for people whose names get on the windows. The only one whose name we didn't have on a window till the 50th anniversary was Walt Disney. He didn't put his own name on a window, he put his father on the window. We put his name on a window about the cast, thanking everybody who has contributed to making this park such a great place. It's one of Disneyland's great traditions. When you have something that goes back now 60 years, it's very special. And it's special, particularly special because Walt decided to do this to thank people, and the company has followed that tradition.
Orange County Register. We are here in the service of Orange County.
I got to say that is just incredible storytelling right there, and so typical Marty.
Yeah, and also a really good reason to get his books and read those books, because imagine just he was a part of Disney history and the stories he tells. Once you read the books, you're going to experience the parks a whole new way.
So here's another author that I highly recommend, and if you've ever watched the Imagineering story, this name may sound familiar, and that name is Bob Weiss.
And he was instrumental in many aspects with the Disney companies, including being the president of Walt Disney Imagineering from 2016 to 2022, which is a position he had in common with Marty.
And we were very fortunate to have the chance to meet him just a couple weeks before Agent Palooza, so we could have him sign they call them nameplates, for his book, Dream Chasing.
And these were a surprise gift to our travel agents attending Agent Palooza. And, Bob was so great to talk with. And when we were getting our photo with him, do you remember? He even helped the cast member who was taking it with some photo pointers. He was just like, hey, no, go this angle, do this. And the photo turned out great.
Look at this up angle, which is what he called it, and make sure you get the signage. Now, frame it in.
And get really close.
Make sure you get me on this side, Rob on the other. We'll have Kerri in the middle. So again, imagine, see, I use that word, getting schooled on how to take a picture from an Imagineer. That is pretty cool. So as we mentioned earlier, Disney's all about the stories, and we highly recommend that those of you with the Disney Plus subscription, we recommend you take a look at the Imagineering story and learn even more, because you'll see both Bob and Marty in a lot of those shows.
And then also pick up a book about Disney history. And I'm super excited to dive into Bob's book. And Marty's have all been so great. I do know I look at the parks different just knowing some of the stories of how they were built.
And if you really want to plus up your Disney knowledge, come experience the stories on our private Adventures by Disney trip, September 28th of this year. You're going to see a lot of the things we talk about, and that is, I say, the ultimate trip for the Disney fan.
Yeah, so there is a link in the description, or you can go to creatingmagicvacations.com and just fill out the plan a vacation form, and then just put the ABD in there.
As always, thanks for listening, or in this case, watching. Until next time, have a magical day.
We hope to see you real soon.